Hi there, welcome back to Knits by Lizzie. This is a channel where I talk about all things knitting. It is mainly a knitting podcast, but today I'm actually going to tell you guys about my trip to Rhinebeck. So I have never been to Rhinebeck before, and I actually just got back, and so I figured I would just chat with you guys about the experience while it's still fresh in my brain. So if you're new here, welcome. It's lovely to have you. My name is Lizzie, and I am a scientist and vegan knitter from New Hampshire. So Rhinebeck, which is a yarn festival, the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, that is held in New York State, up in Rhinebeck, New York, which is why everyone refers to it as Rhinebeck. So coming from New Hampshire, we were able just to drive up to New York. So we took that opportunity this weekend in order to go see it. So today I just want to share with you my experience, and I think what I'm going to do is just tell you guys what we did, and I did film some clips, so I'll throw in some b-roll of what happened, and then at the very end of this video I'll show you what I bought. As I stated, I'm a vegan knitter, so I did not buy any wool. However, I did find some little gadgets and notions and things to buy, including, you can see some of them here, a basket. So I'll show you the non-yarn items I bought at the very end. So we can do a mini little Rhinebeck haul. I'm also going to share a few of my tips for if I was going next year, what I would do, so that if you are watching this video in preparation for going to 2025 Rhinebeck, these will be my tips in order to plan your trip if you have not been before. So that will also be at the end of the video. So if any of that interests you, please feel free to stick around and maybe, work on your project as I share with you my Rhinebeck experience. Okay, so I've got my pedal drop sock here that I'm working on, and I'm just finishing up the heel turn, so I think I'm gonna work on this sock a bit as I chat with you guys about how Rhinebeck went. So it's gonna be kind of a little knit and chat. So I went to Rhinebeck with my really good friend Delaney, who is also a knitter, and she just started a knitting Instagram, and also she just started a knitting podcast too, and it's called Black Dog Knits, since she has two lovely doggies. So I'm gonna link that in the description if you want to check out her knitting podcast as well. It's really great. So I went down with her, and she was very kind and did all of the driving. It's about a 3.5 hour drive to Rhinebeck from where we live in New Hampshire, and so I was just like passenger princessing the whole way. And so, actually, I literally cast on this sock the night before we left, and so all of this progress was done on basically the card ride to and from Rhinebeck, which actually I would have thought that I would have made more progress because it was like 7+ hours, but it is a lace sock, and if it's not like stockinette, and we're like of course chatting and stuff at the same time, so slightly less progress than I thought I was going to have. So yeah, so my friend Delaney, she drove the whole way, and the weather was absolutely perfect. So it was not a cloud in the sky. Of course, since it's October, it was chilly in the morning, but the high was like 70, and it was sunny and amazing and just like a beautiful fall day. So the drive down was just like, it was almost as if we'd gone, like leaf peeping or something, because it was beautiful, just beautiful fall leaves the whole drive down. That was amazing. And then when we got there, we got there like maybe around like 11 or so on Saturday, and there was, I was just like amazed by how many cars there were in, like, you don't park in a parking lot, you park in like grass. So I guess like if you're going and you have a car that like for some reason can't handle grass, that's not gonna work. It's not like it wasn't like muddy or like hard to get out of or anything. It's just like you're not parking on pavement. So we parked in this like huge grass field, and they have a ton of amazing volunteers like showing you where to go. And so even though there's tens of thousands of people that go to this event, parking was so smooth. We actually didn't even have to wait that long, as they were like directing us of where to go in order to park. And so you don't have to, like, they tell you exactly where to park, and so you don't have to worry about like finding a spot in this just grass field where it's not actually a parking lot with defined spots. Like they just direct everyone as you're filing in of where to go. So that went like really smoothly. We both decided to bring lunch instead of buy lunch there. Partly because, like, for me it would be like dietary restrictions. I was afraid that I wasn't going to find anything to eat, and I had seen on other vlogs of previous years that was recommended, was if you have any sort of dietary restriction that you should bring your own food, and I definitely second that. So if I was gonna go again next year, I would 100% still pack my own lunch to go. So if you have, yeah, any sort of dietary restrictions or like allergies that you are, like severe allergies that you can't mess up, or if you generally prefer to eat like healthy food, I would say bring your own lunch because it's very just like the food there. There's actually kind of a lot of options in terms of like the different types of food you can eat, but there's not very many options to fulfill, I would say, like gluten-free or vegan or that sort of thing. And it's all like fair food, which I think totally like fits the vibe and is really, really fun and festive, but it's just like, you know, fair food. So it'd be like fries and pizza and just like, you know, things like that. So we decided to, as soon as we arrived, we just like gobbled down our lunch before we even went into the festival, and then I just like threw an apple in my bag to have in you know, in case of emergency. One thing though that was really surprising is that, so when we were going in, when they were like, security was like looking at our bags and stuff, you aren't allowed to bring in bottled, I think it was definitely not allowed to bring in canned things, but I don't think you were even allowed to bring in bottled things. So if you bring in a can of like soda, or like my friend had a seltzer that they took away, that you can't bring in canned things. And I don't know why, like maybe they don't want canned items because they're like pressurized or something. I have no idea, but you're not allowed to bring in canned items. So just FYI if you're thinking about that. And also, of course, there's no animals allowed, so you can't bring your dog. And I think that might be just when there's like a ton of people, so it just might be overstimulation for a dog anyways. And then there are live animals there, like there's sheep at the festival, and so I think another reason not to have a dog. However, I do not know about service animals. I think that there's probably service animals allowed, but you might have to look into the details for that. They did take away a canned item that we had on our way in. So in general, before I was going, I was kind of expecting to be like crazy overwhelmed when we got in, and it was like a little bit, I would say, but you can just kind of like systematically make your way through all of the barns. So if you've never been to Rhinebeck before, basically it's at like some fairgrounds, and there are a bunch of barns, and so there's kind of like two main areas where there's barns. So and these barns are like where all the vendors are, where you can buy items. So there's a series of smaller barns, smaller, skinnier barns, which is where we had parked. And so that was like the first area that we encountered. And then there is a section where there is a bunch of food, kind of like a middle section, and this is also where the souvenir tent is, close to where the souvenir tent, at least like this year it was. And then also that's where like the infamous hill is, where everyone does like meetups and things. So that is next to where all the food is, and it's in between the small barns, which is where we entered, and then the big barns. And so the big barns are labeled with letters and the small barns are labeled with numbers. And so in between the small and big barns is where the souvenir, the food, and the hill is. So we had at first started with the small barns, and we went through I think like two of them, and actually like right when we walked in, we found a vendor where my friend had been looking for double pointed needles, and we were like chatting on the ride down, like things that we might want to look out for. And it was like the first vendor we went to, we found some double pointed needles, and we were able to like make a purchase immediately. So she got some of that. I'm sure she's gonna do like a Rhinebeck haul on her channel. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna link her down below, but definitely go check her out if you're interested in her haul. And so basically there's these really long barns where there are like kind of like stalls where vendors are set up, and it was pretty crowded. But I think partly because it was such a nice day where people could kind of like spread out outside, it was crowded but not like crazy. So I had expected, based off of what everyone said about Rhinebeck 2023, that it was gonna be crowded in a super negative way, in terms of like people were gonna be like pushing and like making it so that no one else could go through, and there really wasn't a ton of that. I found it like everyone was being really friendly, and it was actually really cool how many people were there. Like to see so many people that were interested in the same things that I like think about all the time was so cool. And to see, like, I recognized so many sweaters. So Andrea Mowry's design for the like her Rhinebeck sweater for this year was the framed sweater, and there were so many people wearing that, and it was so cool to like spot them in the crowd. And there was just just like a lot of sweaters that I recognized, like, oh, look, there's a porcelain sweater, or like, oh, look, I recognize that, that was just like so fun. And I really think that also if I went again next year, that I would make a Rhinebeck sweater to match everyone, because that was just so cool. Like, I wish that I had participated in that. So I guess that would be like another tip I have, is to like, if you so desire, I think it would be fun to actually make the Rhinebeck specific sweater. Like, if you're gonna make a big trip, like if you don't live near New York and you're gonna make a big trip out there where you're either driving really far or flying or something, like if you're gonna make a deal out of it, just like go all the way, you know, like knit the sweater. Because I believe that she does like a specific meetup for everyone who has made and worn the sweater, and so like everyone takes a picture together, and so like you can like meet a lot of people. Again, I can't really like comment on that experience because I didn't participate in it, but like being there, I kind of wish that I had. It was so cool to see so many people just like with handmade outfits on, and like really brought to light, like there are a lot of, you know, there's a lot of people who enjoy this hobby that I also enjoy. So it was just like, you could definitely feel, I've definitely felt like a large sense of community, which was just, I don't know, it was just really nice. So we started out on the little barns, but then I really wanted to get some sort of souvenir. And so we didn't go through all of the small barns first, because we wanted to go find where you could buy the souvenirs. And I figured that there was gonna be like some sort of souvenir tent. And so we went past all the food, and then we went to, where the big barns are, and we still couldn't find the souvenir tent. And then we ran into someone who was trying to explain to us where they were, and we still couldn't find it. So we ended up going through one of the big barns. We actually thought the souvenirs were like in one of the big barns. They're not. We discovered they're not. It's like its own separate thing. So we thought that the souvenirs were going to be in like one of the where one of the really big barns was. So when we were going through that, I was able to find a basket. I really wanted to find a woven basket, which you can see here. I really wanted to find a woven basket, and so that's where I found a woven basket. We looked at, of course, like tons of yarn as we were just like all the time. There was yarn everywhere that we're going through. Oh! And actually, before I found the wooden basket, we went and we found this stand from a woman who sells on Etsy these handmade clay stitch markers of mainly like little animals. And I spent so long trying to figure out which one I wanted. They're kind of expensive, so it's $30 for 4 stitch markers, but they are like they are made with love and care, and they are so intricate and so well done and so freaking cute. I ended up getting some owls, which I'll show at the end during my haul, but we were talking to the woman who makes them, and she, you know, complimenting her on her amazing creations, and she was so touched that we liked them and like appreciative of us complimenting her craft. And it's like just like one of those things that like really fills your cup, where it's like we were so happy to purchase them, she was so happy to sell them, and like there was just like a lot of like mutual appreciation going on. And it's like that's the kind of thing where you're like, oh, I definitely feel good spending more money than maybe I like normally would on a stitch marker for this like really well-made thing that like supports, you know, a female-owned business, and I don't know, just like a small business, but it also still like for a really good product. So we found that in that stand in the big tents too. And then we found the basket stand, and we also went, there was like a kind of like a bookstore, like they had set up a sort of bookstore where there was some signing going on of knitting books, and there was basically like there was a bunch of different publishers selling things, and then at the end you kind of check out like you were going to a bookstore where you can buy books from different publishers, and then there's only one checkout. So I actually did buy a book, but I'm not going to show it because it's a gift for someone that wanted, like a gift for a family member. So I'm not going to show it, but it's not knitting related. So, but I did find a non-knitting related book that I was really excited to find. I was not expecting to see I wasn't expecting to buy books there, but there we go. They sell books at Rhinebeck. So yeah, I bought that. So we had initially thought that the souvenir tent was in this big barn place, but we weren't seeing it. So I saw someone with one of the bags, the Rhinebeck 2024 bags, and so I asked them where they got it, and they were basically like, oh, I pre-ordered this, but there's a really big long line outside this tent, just outside, if you want to like take your chances and see if you can get one now. She was like kind of like, oh, I don't know, like I could look. But because of that, we went outside of the big barns, and indeed there was actually a big sign like pointing souvenir tent that we didn't see. So it's kind of like towards the end of where all the food is, before you went up to where the big barns were. There was a souvenir tent it did have a long line, but it went really, really fast. So even though we were in a line of maybe like 100 people or something, we were only standing in line for like 15 minutes. It was kind of chaotic in the tent. So there was a line to like weave you through to where you actually picked up the merchandise, and then you had to kind of like get back in line to pay. And so I had been worried that they were gonna run out of bags and I wasn't gonna get one. But then I was also like, this was Saturday, and so I was thinking surely they have enough bags to sell on Sunday as well. So like, how are they gonna sell out on Saturday? So maybe that does happen. I mean, if you go to Rhinebeck all the time, like let me know if people should be concerned about getting enough bags. But I still got a bag, and it was $40. So the tote was $40. It's really big though. I'm so excited. I'll show you guys at the end, but I'm really excited about it. So I was able to get a bag, and when we were in line, to pay, we were just chatting with the person in front of us. They were wearing a really lovely stripe hype sweater by Kika, and they said it was their first sweater that they had knit themselves, and they did an amazing job. So we were talking to someone in line, and again, just like everyone was actually so friendly and open to chatting, and there was no shoving going on. I felt like people were, even though it being like so busy and like just like a lot of people in like not a small space, but for the number of people that were there, like it's still like you're pretty, I don't know, I don't want to say packed, but there's a lot of people, you know? So even despite the fact that there were so many people trying to do the same things, I felt like in general people were very respectful and friendly, and we were like chatting to random people about their knitting, and we had like a big conversation with this woman in line about you know, blocking different things and like using different fibers and stuff, which was just so fun. So I got my bag, and then we ended up at that point taking a small break, and we did stand in line to get some drinks. So I got a big old lemonade, which I love lemonade. Whenever I can get it, I get it. So we didn't purchase any food. We did get some lemonade, but they do have like, I don't want to discourage anyone from buying food. Like they have tons of food options. It's just kind of like fun fair food type of thing. So if you don't like that, or if that doesn't fit in your diet, I definitely recommend bringing your own food. So, but they had like a bunch of benches or like picnic tables in this huge field, kind of like up, even like up further past where the hill is. And we were able to, despite the fact there were so many people there and it was such a nice day, we actually found a picnic spot, and we sat and knit on, my friend brought some socks too, so we were knitting on our socks. And we took a little break to drink some water and lemonade, and then that like revived us a bit, because there's just like, you just do a lot of walking and standing. So that revived us a bit, and then we went back to the little barns and wove in and out of the little barns. We spent a lot of time going through the rest of those. They do have some barns where there's like literal sheep that you can go see. They also have like dog shows. We didn't get a chance to go see them, but they do have like, I think they've got like herding dog shows and like maybe like a frisbee thing for dogs too. Yeah, so then we went to these barns, smaller barns that are labeled with numbers, and we found this one area where there is tons and tons of buttons, like really unique buttons, which is another purchase that I made. So there was all sorts of buttons, and they were kind of categorized by color or like what they were made out of, and they were selling them in these like cardboard strips where you got like a certain number of buttons. That's how they primarily were selling them. And they said that they had this big sign that said like, you can't buy these things online, you can't order them, like you need to come, this is the time to buy them. And so I actually heard one of the women that was selling them talking to someone else that was purchasing, basically being like, you know, for next year, if you should like just bring a small swatch of whatever sort of cardigan you're thinking of making, or like some ideas, or like the number, just like bring with you some notes about like the size of the button and that you need for your garment, and like how many buttons, because I ended up buying 2 different types of buttons for things that I already know I'm gonna make. But I can totally envision, because these buttons were so amazing, I can totally envision someone just like stocking up on all the buttons that they think they might need for the next year, and buying all sorts for different projects. And you just like, if you come prepared, you can make sure that you buy like the right buttons. But it was so, I could have spent like hours just sorting through all of these buttons. There was like buckets and buckets of them, and there's a lot of them that were, it was like a card where they were all like maybe one color, but really unique ones, which I think would be so fun to have a different to have a cardigan where it is kind of like, is brought together by the fact that all the buttons are maybe the same color, the same type, but each button is slightly different. Like one might be like little flowery, or one might be like, have this like a different design on it or something. I didn't end up getting buttons like that, but I was really debating it because it just like, I don't know, I think it'd be a really fun way to kind of like spice up your cardigan. So then we found that in terms of like obviously like this whole time we also stopped at so many different yarn shops. It is primarily like the yarn that is available at Rhinebeck is primarily hand-dyed yarn of all sorts. So hand-dyed wool and like tons of different wool blends. And so the yarn is very, very expensive. And so it's like, you know, $30 a skein kind of yarn that you buy there. So I feel like it's kind of the place where, unless you've got like tons of money, it's the place where you buy like, oh, I'm gonna buy a few special skeins for like socks or hats, or maybe I'm gonna buy one sweater's quantity worth of hand-dyed yarn for the special occasion. But so just like, I don't know, I think most people understand that, but I think that if you're like new to the knitting community, that is the yarn that you go, that is like available to buy at Rhinebeck. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous yarn. Like people do such a good job dyeing it, and there's all sorts of different types where it's like you can get rustic yarn or you can get like silky, like merino type of thing. But it is very, very expensive. So that's the type of yarn that's available there. But we were looking at all sorts of yarn, and my friend did purchase a few skeins, so again, go ahead and check her out. So we ended up going through all of those bars, and we ended up in this like we ended up going through one that was kind of like a like specialty food one, and I ended up getting a small gift for my boyfriend who loves hot sauce. So I bought some fun hot sauce for him just sort of to bring him back as a little like souvenir from Rhinebeck. So there are like other specialty, like it's not just yarn, like there was a bunch of vendors selling kind of like local specialty sort of food there. And there actually were, especially like throughout where all the yarn was, there was people selling like either like soaps or lotions, that kind of thing is also something that you can purchase there. And then by that time, that was like that amount of time covered like 6 hours. So you can spend so much time just like walking around feeling yarn and looking at yarn. And so we left like a little bit before, so it closes at 5 on Saturday and 4 on Sunday. And so we went on Saturday, and so it closed at 5, but we left at like 4:50. And because of where we parked, we actually didn't even have to wait that long in order to get out. And then we went into the town of Rhinebeck for dinner, and we were able to find some like street parking. So I definitely think that the parking can be like we're still able to find it, but it can be a little difficult. And we ended up going to this really great restaurant called Cinnamon, and the wait was kind of like, even though we had a reservation, the wait was kind of long to get seated and have our food. But it was like a crazy busy day, obviously, because like everyone was in town everyone was in town of Rhinebeck for Sheep and Wool Festival for Rhinebeck. And so I think that like basically every restaurant was like way busier than they are kind of like used to maybe. So I kind of like, even though it took a while, I don't necessarily blame them. Like they were really busy, it was fine. But the food was absolutely amazing, and they had meat options and veggie options. Like my friend was able to get a non-vegan option, and I got a vegan option, and so amazing food, tons of different like dietary options. So I really recommend it. It was called Cinnamon. But I think that kind of leads me into my tips at this point. So, because that was kind of like the end of our Rhinebeck day, we ended up staying at an Airbnb in Poughkeepsie. So we stayed like 30 minutes-ish away. We didn't actually decide we were going to Rhinebeck until like August or something. And so even by August, like a few months, 2 months out, it still is getting booked up. So I would say that if you are planning on going to Rhinebeck in 2025, tip number 1 would be to book everything as far in advance as possible. So if you buy tickets to Rhinebeck Festival, like a New York Sheep and Wool Festival online, it is slightly cheaper than if you buy them at the door. For us, it was $13.50 online, but it's $15 at the door. So the tickets aren't like that part of the tickets aren't a huge deal. But in terms of housing, I would say book housing as far in advance as you can. So we were still able to find some like reasonable housing towards the end of August. So about like 8 weeks away from Rhinebeck, we were able to find some housing. We looked at Airbnb. So I would say like you can look at hotels, but don't forget about Airbnb. That was a way for us to find decent or even like better than hotel quality housing for cheaper than what the hotels were for that weekend, because I think the cost does rise quite a bit for that very specific weekend because of Rhinebeck. So number 1 is plan as far in advance as you can. And then number 2 would be to maybe, if you are especially someone who can get tempted by pretty things, is to like set yourself either a budget or like a very rough outline plan. Like obviously you want to be able to be inspired and like make some purchases, but just because there's so many options, it can be kind of overwhelming. So it's good to like have a very rough plan of what you want, either how much you want to spend or what you are kind of looking for. Like I'm looking for one sweater's quantity of yarn. Or for me, I really wanted to find a woven basket. And so that was like one thing that was on my list that I was able to find. And there was actually multiple vendors selling baskets. I was like thinking that there might only be one, but there was multiple vendors selling baskets. So that would be tip number 2. Tip number 3, which is one that I already stated, which is that I would suggest bringing snacks or packing food if you have any sort of restrictions. And then the 4th thing would be to bring cash. That is for several reasons. So there's several of the food vendors that only accept cash. And so if you are purchasing food there might be one that you really want to go to, but it might only accept cash. I will say though that I'm pretty sure that we saw one ATM on the kind of like campus on the fairgrounds. And so I think that there is an ATM there. We didn't end up using it, so I can't like 100% guarantee that. So I would say to be safe, bring cash with you, because there are some food vendors that are cash only. And there actually was the place that I bought my basket from was cash only as well. Most of the vendors, like the yarn vendors, I would say like it seemed like 90% of them took a card. So you'll probably, if you don't bring cash, like you'll probably be fine. But if you want to have like everything available to you, bring some cash with you. I think like these days, that's definitely something that you have to be reminded of, because for like, I had to get cash out like specifically to go to this thing because I never have cash on me. Like, you know, I mainly just like, you know, tap with the Apple Watch. Like I hardly ever use cash anymore. And I think most people are like that. So bring cash. And then my next tip would be to wear comfortable shoes since you're going to be walking all the time. And so it is also like, it's a fairground. Like this is like probably not the time to wear your like really nice fancy shoes, because it's a fairground, there's animals there, and you are primarily going to be walking. There are a few benches along the like sparse here and there, and like I said, there was like a big field of picnic tables that we were able to rest at, so it's not like there's no places for like respite, but definitely there's gonna be a lot of walking. So I would say wear shoes that are really comfortable, that you can walk in. And then I think my last tip would be to make a Rhinebeck sweater for Rhinebeck, because I think that just like the fact that you could spot people wearing the same sweater just really like cinched in this sense of community. And like I had said earlier, I kind of had, once I was there and like saw it, I really wish that I had made one and participated in that. So I would say if I was going again next year, I would make the whatever Andrew Mauer's Rhinebeck sweater is, I would make it. Yeah, I've already stopped numbering these tips, but I think my very last tip would be to not be afraid to like reach out to other knitters when you're there, because as I said, everyone was so friendly, and I didn't necessarily like go up on the hill, which is where everyone does meetups, and talk to people, but kind of in retrospect, I wish I had, but I was just, I don't know, I get kind of like, you know, awkward and nervous. So I didn't end up doing that, but I think if I go next year, that I'm gonna like, you know, bring the courage and like talk more to other people. And then also kind of like if you make the Rhinebeck sweater, or if you go to like specific meetups that are organized by some sort of like knitting person, so like a designer or like a podcaster or something, then that's just like kind of a way to like instigate you meeting more people. And so I think that would be my final tip, is to like not be afraid to participate in those things. And yeah, I had a great time. I highly recommend it, especially if you are like in driving distance where it will be less of a ordeal to go. But for us, I mean, like we drove you know, like several hundred miles, and we spent the night, so it was still like an event. And I would say it was definitely worth it and a really good time. I had so much fun hanging out with my my friend. We would talk about all things knitting. We spent a lot of time knitting together, and overall had a great time. Okay, so now I'll show you what I bought. So first off, I did get one of these totes. And I just want to show you the features. So it is, you can probably like see in relation to my body, like this is a project bag that can fit an entire sweater and all the yarn and everything you're using it for. So I'm so stoked. And it has these outside pockets. So it's got, two here. Yeah, so I guess it's just got two. So it's got these two here, and then it zips at the top, so nothing is gonna fall out, which actually reminds me of like the bags from Flock. So I didn't go to Flock, I don't have one, but just like I've seen them, other people have them, and I think this is like a very similar style. I think this is a very similar style to the Flock bag, where it's like a big tote bag that's zippered. So it's zippered at the top, and then inside it's got these kind of like Velcroed spots where you can put it together, and then another bag inside of that. so you could put like notions or whatever. So I'll show you, I bought a lot of like small things. So I'll show you these up in addition to the bag, what I got at the stand where the woman was selling the really good stitch markers. It's called Wee Ones. Is the name of the store. I 100% recommend this, weeones.etsy.com. This woman was so nice. She was like making them at the same time that she was selling them too. And she was just like so nice, and so you could tell that she really loved what she did and puts a lot of like care into each one, and it was so hard to choose. There were so many cute little animals. So I ended up going, there we go. So I ended up going with these owls, and so there's owls of different colors, and so that like I could help even distinguish them. And so I'm definitely gonna use them as beginning of round markers. There was of course some cats, and I was tempted to get the cats, but I already have cat beginning of round markers, and I've also bought cat progress keepers. When I was in Copenhagen, I bought cat progress keepers. So I was like, okay, you've got enough cat stuff, like there's other cute things out there. And so I got these cute little owls, and then if you bought something, you could get these needle like stoppers for half off. And so it maybe like because I didn't get cat stitch markers, I ended up getting cat these little paw progress or not progress, these little paw needle stoppers. And my one of my cats is a calico, and so these that have the like orange and white and brown, like they look like her paws, and so I think they're so cute. So I was like, having the deal of being able to get these for half off if you buy something else, like totally sold me. So I got those from Wee Ones, and I think if I'm ever buying some like kind of specialty stitch markers, I'm gonna go on Etsy, just because I really want to, like, this woman was just so nice. I just want to like support her. So I also got buttons, like I said, and I'm actually gonna go grab the yarn real quick that I'm gonna use these for, so that I can show you. So I have, in my upcoming like definite plans, I've got 2 cardigans. One of them is the book club cardigan by Sari Nordland that I'm gonna make. And I am gonna making this in a brown color. And so I'm gonna be holding this, Kind Feather by Hobby, which actually I recently learned it might be Hobby that you pronounce it. I think I might just keep calling it Hobby. This seems like way more natural for me. So this is like, yeah, the Danish brand of Hobby, which I think maybe quite a few people have heard of. It's great, I love it. So I got this in Copenhagen, and then I recently just finally got in the mail this vegan mohair. Oh, the color's really not coming through. This vegan mohair to hold together with it. So I've got some brown, and so this is gonna be like I feel like the button band's gonna be maybe like on the thicker side, and so I got 6 wooden toggle buttons to hold with this. So like I said, this is like, they were selling them on cardboard, these little like cardboard things where you could get like one set of buttons. And so you can see that these are all the same like style, like there's these toggle buttons, but they're wooden, and the wood is all different colors. So I'm gonna have to, definitely when I make the cardigan, I'm gonna have to play with the best layout, because there's some that are lighter and some that are darker. So I'll probably try to just like alternate a lighter one, a darker one, a lighter one, a darker one, because I think it'd be kind of funny if I had like all the lighter ones and then all the darker ones. It's like, oh, like what happened? Like, did your buttons get faded? But yeah, these are really nice. So it's like wooden, and then it's got some kind of like sheen on it, and they look, I don't know, I just feel like they're pretty unique. And yeah, let's see, it was $18 for 6 buttons. I guess it's like kind of expensive, but I don't know, I feel like that wasn't horrible for like a really nice button. And then the other cardigan that I'm for sure gonna make that I actually recently swatched for once the mohair came in, which actually you guys are seeing this before the podcast episode, so I'll probably talk about this again in my next podcast episode that I film. But so here's my swatch. I'm gonna be remaking an April cardigan. Let's see here. Oh, it's so like light, you can't even. I know, it's kind of hard to see, but basically it's a gray yarn with a black mohair, and the black is definitely really coming through a lot. And so it's gonna be I feel like it's gonna be kind of like basically like a black and gray cardigan, but the black mohair is obviously is gonna mean that there's gonna be like black fuzzies coming off. So I really debated about what type of buttons to get. For a bit I was thinking of getting like these cute little pink buttons to go on it, and then I was thinking, ooh, what if I put bright red buttons on this black cardigan? And I do think that those would have been cute, but I think in the end they would have made the cardigan slightly less wearable, and I really wanted to make this cardigan that I'm gonna make still not oversized, but bigger than the first April cardigan that I made. And I'm making it in this black and gray color, which I think is gonna be a very like kind of like more neutral, really wearable color. And so I really wanted to maintain the wearableness of it. And then also, I don't know, I feel like a black cardigan is kind of professional, so I wanted to keep that going. And so I found these, oh man, I'm so sorry. The lighting is just really not great today. But I found these really cute, they are these kind of like grayish black, they look like roses. They look like roses. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And so I think that's gonna work perfectly for an April cardigan. They are a little bit smaller than the April cardigan buttons that I used on my first one. So I think I might make the button band slightly less, like use less stitches for the double knit button band on this next cardigan, so that the size of these buttons kind of makes sense. And I'm probably just gonna make 7 buttonholes no matter what is suggested in the pattern. I'm just gonna make 7 buttonholes so I can use them all. And yeah, I really love them. So this was also $18. So I don't know, like I said, it's not like cheap buttons, but I feel like that's not horrible. Like you could buy more expensive buttons, I think. So I got those buttons as well. And then like I said, I did get like a book for a gift that I'm not gonna show you guys because I don't wanna spoil it. And the hot sauce. But I think one of the, I don't know if it's the star of the show because I kind of love everything that I got. But one of my main things I wanted to get was a basket. Look at this. Hand woven basket. This, I don't know, can you see that this is like a bow in the front? And you can see the inside. Here's the back. So I really have had a desire recently to start just like doing better interior design. So we have lived in this apartment that we live in. We've lived in for 3 years, and for 2 of those years we did not have a single thing on the walls. And after like 2 years I was like, okay, maybe we should actually hang some things. We even had paintings. We just literally had not ordered the thingies to put them up, the hooks to put them up. And so we finally did that, but it's still just like very minimal, and I really do not feel like my space reflects my like the aesthetic that I want, or like, I don't know, isn't like your home. I kind of want my home to like reflect who I am and just be like a really nice cozy space to be in, to come home to. And so I really want to start investing in like pieces, like home pieces that I'll have for a long time, that I like the look of. And obviously like I really want to avoid any sort of like impulse thing, but I do love decorating for each season. Like I have a different wreath for every season that I put outside and hang on the door. It's like, if it's a very New England thing to have wreaths, and I really leaned into that, and so I've got a different wreath for every season. And so like I've got a fall wreath out that's just leaves, and then every year for Christmas I buy a fresh fir wreath, and that's only out for the month of December. And then I've got like a winter wreath that I put out, and then a flowery one for the spring. So I really like decorating per season, but I just feel like, yeah, I really want to decorate my house more. I don't know, I might, let me know in the comments down below if anyone would be interested in seeing like any sort of like decorate with me videos that might like motivate me to actually do it, of like kind of like home renovation videos. It definitely would be very like off topic for this channel that's all about knitting, but yeah, I don't know, if you guys have any interest in seeing that, I can film it if I end up doing that. Definitely, like, I am, as I think I've mentioned before on this channel, I am finishing up my PhD right now, and so that means that fairly soon I'm probably going to be moving to wherever my postdoc is. And so I do feel like, especially once I move, when I'm moving into a new space, that'll be a great opportunity to really jump into like making that home what I want it to be. So I really I had an idea of, I wanted to get a basket, and so this was honestly, this was $35, but I feel like especially compared to how much the rest of the baskets were, I feel like this is actually not that expensive. Like I was expecting it to be a lot worse for a hand woven basket, and I'm really happy with it. I love the green. Purple is my #1 favorite color, but I actually like wearing green more, and like I have more green things. Even though purple is my favorite color, green is my number 2 favorite color. Just like if I look at them like kind of like objectively, I like purple more, but I think I like putting green things out, like decorating and wearing green with green more. So this is the basket that I got. So yeah, that's the end of my haul here. I know it's not a ton. I did get 2 other things like that hot sauce and the book for a gift, but obviously the point of Rhinebeck is not to go crazy and spend all of your money. And I was like really happy with all the things that I got, really excited for them. And I'm so stoked on those buttons to use for this cardigan and the book club cardigan. So I would say my final thoughts are just like, it was so worth the trip out. I highly recommend it for other knitters. It is a lot of people. It can be overwhelming, you know, just like you can take quiet moments when you need them. Go find a bench, sit down, knit a little bit, you know, and then you can get back out there. But I had heard just like some drama about last year that it was, I don't know, that people just like weren't as friendly maybe. And that was not my experience this year at all. I was kind of like, I mean, this never actually came up, but sometimes when I spend time in the knitting community, as someone who doesn't knit with wool, that, I don't know, that if someone asks me what my sweater's made out of and I tell them the acrylic, that they're gonna like really look down on me or like not want to hang out with me, you know, like I have a lot of anxiety about that. But it didn't really come up, but I don't know. I still just like, even though I wasn't going to be buying wool when everyone else was buying wool, I still felt that I could be included, and I was still able to purchase quite a few things. And I've got my Rhinebeck project bag that I think I'm going to use a lot. And yeah, I think I'm just, you know, my knitting cup is full over here. So let me know if you guys have any questions about the experience that I can answer for you. And I should be back next week with another project update knitting podcast. And if I have any clips left that I haven't put in, I'm gonna put them in now. So I'll say goodbye at this point, and I'll send lots of big hugs to everyone, and I'll see you next time. Okay, Delaney, what's your Rhinebeck outfit? What's your Rhinebeck sweater you got on?
Okay, I am wearing my Stockholm sweater, which I finished, I think, yesterday from Petite Knit, and it is knit in a merino wool, which is very warm right now, and I did the cuffs in a Peer Gynt dark brown color.
Nice. What is the main color of the sweater?
Oh, this is a henna colorway from Hey Mama Wolf.
Great. Give me a twirl. Amazing! Alrighty, so my Rhinebeck knit fit is the Esther jacket by Petite Knit that I knit in Stylecraft Special DK in the color Parchment. And I finished this on Thursday, and today is Saturday. And I decided to go with the metal buttons that I got in Copenhagen for this, even though for a while I was thinking of doing toggle buttons. And then because it is actually like, let's see, 68 degrees and an absolutely gorgeous day, I actually need to take this off. And so because I was anticipating this, still have some knitwear going on. This is the Moonset tee by Ozetta that I knit in Baroque modern cotton. Yes, which is bamboo and cotton blend. Delaney found an item, we think, a purchase item.
From Docs and Daddy. This is Coffee Shop, and I'm going to make a pair of socks out of them.
Yay! Oh, and if there's a worked up swatch here, which definitely helped with the decision.
Little flecks of glue.
It's 75% merino, 25% nylon, so that's perfect for socks. Yay!